Hey, so we receive literally, I don't know, maybe hundreds of emails on the website and also on social media asking us about how to increase brain performance and cognitive performance as an entrepreneur. And that really goes deep into not just brain health, right? So that we could make the split-second decisions necessary during the course of a day, but also our physical well-being so that we look like a leader and we have the energy to do everything that we need to do, and also longevity so that we have the ability to enjoy growing businesses for a long time, decades to come, right? So I am super excited today because I've got a very good friend of mine, Dr. Sam Robbins, with us. And I go to him when it comes to anything related to brain health, supplements for performance, when it comes to cognitive performance or being able to do a little bit more in the gym so that I have a little bit more confidence so that when I stand in front of a board of directors meeting, I feel good about myself. So I'm excited. I don't know where this conversation is going to go, but we're going to have a really good time and you guys get a chance to eavesdrop. Sam, you ready, buddy?
I'm ready. Thanks.
So listen, I don't even know where to start because when you and I start talking, we just kind of like vomit up some really great gold when it comes to this. And we've said it probably 100 times that we should probably record some of our conversations. So I want to start, if it's okay with you, like just kind of let's peel the onion deep. Like let's go really top layer first. Like what do you do? Because like actually before we get started, I want to just mention one of the reasons why I wanted to have this interview today is because you're not just really knowledgeable about nutrition and kinesiology and hormonal health, but you're an entrepreneur. Like you've built multiple companies. You just recently exited a company. Like you live the same exact lifestyle that I and every single one of our viewers live. Like you're literally in the grind every single day, growing your business and trying to increase your reach so that you could hit more audience members with your message. So you're there and you are consistently performing at your top and looking kind of younger every freaking year I've known you.
It's all white now.
Well, yeah, you're whiter today. Outside of the gray, you're looking great. So let's talk top layer. Like, what do you do to make sure that you're performing at your best?
So the first thing anyone listening to this is you have to have your goals, right? Is your, what Chris just talked about. For me, it's always, my goal has always been health, right? So anything I do, it has to be just physical health, but also mental and emotional health. So when I started all this stuff, and as far as just cognition, I started my own business in late 95, right? And I needed money to get through school and all that stuff. So I started my own internet business. And I was literally burning the candles on both ends. I hate to say it, I was taking uppers and downers to sleep and wake up. I was going through school. I had morning and night. I was working nights and weekends. And when you're young, you can do whatever you want, right? It's like, I know guys who are like, I got drunk the night before till 4 a.m., went and bought a killer bike ride, for work at 6 a.m. You can't do that when you get older. So for me, I just realized I couldn't do that. My sleep is still messed up. So I remember, in fact, people talking about biohacking. I would sit in like one of my medical classes and I would be focused I would take caffeine and all that stuff. And I'd be focused and focused and focused. And then minutes later, I'm like, oh man, that chick's hot. My brain would like go there. I'd be thinking about working out. I'd think about that. And all of a sudden at the end of class, the guy's like, don't forget, test on Friday. I'm like, what just happened? Like, where did I go? And then this is like right before the internet was really picking up. And I started learning about nootropics and like things like paracetam and hydrogen and all that stuff. And I honestly don't even know how I got my hands on it because I didn't order anything on the internet. And I used to get it from Europe. I started taking this stuff. And then I just realized one day I listened to the entire class without zoning out. And it wasn't like I took Adderall like they do now or caffeine. I just like really focused. I'm like, wow, this stuff really works. So long story short, I played around with a lot of that stuff, the original biohackers, and a lot of my clients were bodybuilders. So they hack with all their hormones and everything. But the whole point with all this is what's your goal? So for me, if you want energy, and for me to run all the businesses, you wear different hats during the day. And if you have kids or whatever it is, you have to be like working, like kicking ass. I'm doing this interview, and later on, an employee might ask something. I can't be like, yeah, do this, do that, because the employee might be like, hey, what's going on? So you have to always have the mindset of, hey, Joe, really, thanks for doing this. And it takes different mindset to constantly grind through the different personalities and different hats you wear, and whether you're being creative or doing all this stuff. And that has to do with also your diet, right? And working out. A lot of you guys may not be working out, or you're working out incorrectly. For example, I used to work out late at night. And when you do that, you're jacked up, your nervous system, and you can't sleep. So we can talk about all the different things you can do as far as this, that, and the other thing, but it takes a little bit of balance. I know a lot of people take, modafinil, Provigil, and I actually had that stuff synthesized for me like 20 plus years ago. And I'm like, oh, this stuff's awesome. And it just burns you out. Remember, modafinil has like a 15, 16-hour half-life. Even caffeine has like a 5 or 6 hour half-life. So you guys like downing 200-300 cups of 200-300 milligrams of caffeine, that stuff goes all through the night, and it's going to ruin your sleep. Despite guys thinking, oh, I just take it and sleep, you're not sleeping well. So for me, energy starts at night, right? Getting that good sleep, and what you do first thing in the morning and throughout the day, and having goals and organizing everything so you're not scattered. I know, like for me, I keep everything to 60 to 90 minutes. And then I restart. I take breaks. I drink water. Hydration's a big thing. So I know I just went off on a huge tangent. So I'll let you interject whatever you want.
I don't think there was a tangent. I think that was the top layer of the freaking onion, because like we can't do anything without a decent night of sleep. And we should define decent, because I'm able to perform and do a lot in my businesses, and I sleep like shit a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it is decent. Like I've got to, I personally do things, and maybe we could talk a little bit about this either now or sometime as we're talking today. But I do a lot of things that I call forced relaxation, because if I'm not sleeping well at nighttime one night, then I have a list of things that I will do. I will force myself to get a massage if I sleep really bad 1 or 2 nights in a row. Even if I don't, I'm going to do that at least once a week. But there's a list of things, like I'll meditate a little bit, and there's different kinds of meditation, even if it's 10 or 15 minutes, even if it's just listening to a progressive relaxation audio. I don't care. I need something in order to, and I know there's science behind it, and maybe you know about it, but there's a state of mind that you can get yourself into with meditation or with a good progressive relaxation audio that literally allows your brain to go through that cycle of cleaning, which you have to do at nighttime. Like nighttime is the time that your brain shrinks just a little bit, which allows this fluid in there. I'm talking in complete lay terms because I don't know any of the scientific terms. And it cleans away the fatigue and all the other kind of good shit that slows down your brain. If you don't have that, because you don't sleep 6, 7, 8 hours straight, which I don't, then you don't have that thorough cleansing. So during the day, I'll do the meditation, or I'll do massage therapy, or I've got a list of other little hacks that I personally like that help me to maybe make up. I realize anybody who's on sleep hates it when I say make up for sleep. But I mean, as entrepreneurs, we have to perform no matter what every single day.
Yeah. So we can talk about how to improve sleep. That's a big thing. Look, I'm not a good sleeper. I've never been a good sleeper. My mom says as a child, true story, she'd be like, as a baby, she's like, okay, this guy's got to sleep. He's got to grow. And I wouldn't. She's like, you just be up. I'd fall asleep and you'd be awake. I'd wake up, your baby's awake. She's like, something's got to be wrong. So she took her to the doctor. Mind you, this is in the old country. And the doctor's like, oh, take these drops. Kid will sleep like a baby. And my mom said for the next week, I was like, boo. She's like, something's wrong with my kid. She said, if God doesn't want you to sleep, then I'm not going to do it. So I've never been a good sleeper, but that's me. I know girlfriends I've had, they don't sleep, they hibernate. Oh, I slept 9-10 hours tonight. Like nothing wakes them up. I'm like, what's going on? And that again has hormones. I've always been high testosterone, high dopamine driven. I don't have like that high serotonin. If I take anything to improve serotonin levels, I actually get emotional, right? And I don't want that. So we're driven, all right? I don't know if it's mainly what our audience is, mainly guys are that. I'm very dopamine driven. You got to be dopamine driven. You got to be going. You know, dopamine is a pleasure chemical, but it's also like you wanting to do more of the good stuff. So for me to improve sleep, let's just assume you don't get a good night's sleep. We'll talk about how to improve sleep. You have to take breaks throughout the day. First thing you can do is just get up in the morning, like I've always have. I get up and I go take a walk outside. I take my supplements and snack. And now I've got a puppy, so I take her for a walk. But just going outside, even if I'm like, I just go and I get some sun, 10, 20, 30 minutes. And at that time, I'm not necessarily working because I don't want to get my brain all angry with work. I will listen to something cool, or maybe a YouTube, or maybe music, or I might call my mom, something mellow. If talking to someone is going to be mellow, and just get your brain about what I want to do and why I want to do. And today's going to be a good day regardless. And I come back, I have a meal at that point, but if you don't want to eat, that's totally cool. But you don't take your caffeine and uppers and all that right time, because let your body naturally create its own dopamine, you know, get your cortisol levels to go up in the morning. That's what gets you going. Then maybe a couple hours later, you can have your cup of coffee. I know you're like, oh, how am I going to get even the morning? Trust me, that's your morning thing. Get out, move, exercise, get some sunlight. That's the first thing you can do. And throughout the day, take little breaks. I go for walks throughout the day, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. I have a massage chair. Now, I know Chris just said, you know, get a massage. And some people are like, I can't afford a massage. I don't have time for that. That's cool. I get it. But you can't work like 8 hours straight, because your mind starts to wander, okay? And you may not know it. It's like going to the gym. You can't work out for 3 hours straight. You know, about 45 to 60 minutes, you start to zone out. And they always say, like, how do I build like that weak body part? Do it at the beginning of the workout rather than the end, because at the beginning of there, you're focused. So do the important stuff, you know, at the beginning, take 60 to 90-minute breaks, drink water. Most of you are not drinking enough water. And taking caffeine dehydrates even more. Water is so important. Drinking anything else doesn't count. I mean, maybe some tea or this and that. Drink your water, take multiple breaks throughout the day. Also, you know, food matters. Are you taking essential fats? Are you taking, you know, right amount of protein? I know some of you also like this whole carnivore diet or keto diet and all that stuff. I get tons of energy from that. It's not good energy necessarily. It's your adrenaline going up. Your cortisol level is going up because you're on survival mode right now. I haven't eaten for 12 hours and I feel great. Yeah, your body's on survival mode. I'm not saying go high carbs or any of that, but you need some carbohydrates. Carbohydrates fuels your brain. I know you can be on a keto diet, take MCT oil, but it's not nearly the same, all right? Your brain likes glucose, just regardless of what anybody says. When you work out, it requires that. Also, working out earlier in the day gets you energized. I said, I used to work out late at night. I'm like, gee, why can't I sleep? So try not to work out too late in the day. If you can't take a nap, nap is like 15, 20, 30 minutes. Like, I can't nap, just lay down. Listen to something, just close your eyes. Because remember, your body's a self-healing, self-cleaning organism. So like Chris said, at night, your brain takes a dump if it's sleeping well, okay? If you not take that dump at night, quote unquote, for your brain to improve memory and cognition and all that, take it throughout the day. Meditation, if you can do it. I'm not so good at it. But for me, meditation might be just to put something in your ear, close your eyes with a mask, and just detach from all of life's BS. That, to me, improves it. Plus, when you come out of it, you're in a better mood. You're not going to be all aggressive and angry and short-tempered. You're not going to yell at your girlfriend or boyfriend or your kick the dog or whatever it is, right? You're going to be in a much better mood. You're going to get a lot more done being in that positive mood. Especially if you're running a big company, you have to have that positive mood for your employees, for your assistant and all that. Because at the end of the day, you're a leader and they look up to you. And if you're always angry, they're going to take it personally. Because being a leader at this level, you got thicker skin. Okay, you can take shit, whatever. When you're a leader, you take responsibility for everything. Everything someone goes like, all right, it's my freaking problem, all right? Where employees like, not my problem, so-and-so did it, this and that. So they take everything personally. Being in a good mood or in a positive mood or taking breaks. They always say, you know, if you write an email or whatever, take a break before you send it. I've taken breaks. Hours later, I'm like, the next day, I'm like, what am I doing, dude? I'm such a jerk. Why was I even thinking that? Also, just a quick note, one of my employees, Ali, he's in another country. He's such a sweetheart of a guy. And sometimes he just doesn't pay attention to details. I remember like a couple of times I replied back, I'm like, what the F, dude? Why aren't you listening to this thing? The entire website just shut down. Why aren't you double checking your work? And I sent it to him, and literally 5 minutes later, because I'm hypersensitive. I sent back, I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry, I yelled at you. It's just like I expect more from you. This isn't like you. And it negatively affected the business. Can you please double check? And again, I'm very sorry about that. He replied back and said to me, like, I remember vividly, he's like, look, you're like my older brother, and I understand what you're going through. And thank you for saying that. It soothed his heart, and I felt better, and I didn't have regret. I can be like, oh, who cares? He works for me. Nobody works for you. They work with you. And if you mistreat someone, it's life is about going into someone's life and making sure they're better than the way you left off. It's easy to be a jerk. It's hard to be positive. It's easy to react versus act. And when you're low energy and you're angry and your cortisol levels are up and stress hormones, you didn't sleep and the whole world against you. Because look, I've been on this for 25 plus years. Every day is like a problem. People would say, hey, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a firefighter. I put out fires all day long. So you have to be very strong to deal with that. And you can't do that if you're physically, mentally, and emotionally drained, if you're not sleeping, eating, resting, if you're not working out right. The best thing you can do is work out, is exercise. But we can get to that a little bit later.
Yeah, listen, we could flow directly into that, but I want to say something about a couple of things that you pointed out, which I thought were really, really well worth touching upon again. First of all, being a jerk in business, it really is very much indicative, at least in my life, of the amount of sleep I got, the kind of food I'm eating that day, or even the previous day, how hydrated I am. That's a huge one, right? Dehydration. I don't make decisions as quickly, or I don't think them through, put it that way. And it's noticeable. So I mean, I really do focus very heavily on these things now. So even on nights that I don't get good sleep, my hydration is spot on. Like throughout the course of the day, I'm going through, on a bad day, it's a half a gallon of water. On a good day, it's a little bit more than a gallon of water. And I'm putting electrolytes into the water. So I'd love to pick your brain on what you believe as far as electrolytes go. But also the food, like I'll be quite honest with you, a crappy meal. Like if I let the team go out and buy lunch for us, and I don't specifically say, like, I don't want fast food, like I won't eat. I literally won't eat it when they bring it here because I know the impact that fried foods, or like a hamburger from not a really good grass-fed hamburger, but a hamburger from some place that my team might get. I know what that does, and I'm really blessed that most of the people who I surround myself with, they don't eat that kind of stuff. Like the culture inside of every company that I'm part of, the culture is around being happy, being healthy, right? Sharing with everybody else. So it really does attract people who want to eat good foods, and they're not drinking Coca-Cola at their desk. Everybody's got water bottles at their desk. Maybe it's because we fill the freaking water with the refrigerator with a whole bunch of different kinds of fresh water, right? Like I'm definitely trying to influence them. I don't have free Coca-Cola and Sprite in the refrigerator. I have free waters. But anyway, so let's go.
Let's pause on that for a second. You can only do something if it becomes a habit. By the way, look, we all get weak. And when you're tired and grumpy, I guarantee you, I have incredible discipline, more than 99% of the world. And I don't even have cravings. But man, when I feel like crap, there's like candy, and I don't even crave sugar. I will eat it. And guess what? Once you start eating it, dopamine goes up. It's like crack cocaine. I'm like, I start craving it even more. Next thing I'm like, man, I just ate like that whole bowl. So remove junk out of your way and replace it with good stuff. Look, you can make this whole big thing of water and make it taste good too. You can put a little stevia in there. You can put whatever you want, not necessarily sugar. You put a little lemon juice to alkalize your body and all that stuff. And then, you can put electrolytes. I actually put a little bit of L-glutamine because it also kills your appetite if you tend to do that. And just drink it. If it's there, you'll do it. Okay, if it's there, you'll do something. If the gym is like right there, you'll do it. If the gym is an hour and a half away, You won't do it. Look, I have multiple gym memberships. One of them is Gold's Gym. It's the original one in Venice. I love going there. It's only 3 miles away from me. But dude, if I go at the wrong time of the day, seriously, it's 30 to 45 minutes, just 3 miles away. There's so much traffic. And I'm like, oh, it's not even worth it. However, I got gyms, 2 of them walking distance or whatever. I'll just go there and I'm like, well, it's better than nothing.
Yep.
So if something is easy, you know, even the greatest relationships you'll have, if it's close to you, you'll do it. If it's your girlfriend, the chick you're dating, she's super hot and all this, you got to drive an hour every day to see her, it's not going to work. So convenience and ease makes a huge difference. So make your life easy by putting good stuff in front of you and removing the bad stuff. And that also includes people. Nothing is going to drain you emotionally like bad people. There's nothing wrong with being negative and venting, but not when someone keeps talking about the same. It's no longer a challenge, it's a problem when you keep talking about them. Some people are just negative, and that's fine. Disassociate with them. Over the years, I've gotten rid of like 90% of people in my life. And at first I'm like, no, I've known this person for so long and this and that, or their family. I got rid of them and I feel no remorse. My life is 100 times better. And I always give this analogy of they're like weed. Weeds grow anywhere all the time. You can walk on the sidewalk and there's weeds growing out of the freaking sidewalks. There's no fertilizer, there's no water, nothing, and it grows. But trying to make a rose bush grow, everything's got to be just right. So cultivate, if you're going to spend your time or money, or forget it. Time and money, I'll do it. But you have limited amounts of heartbeats, literally heartbeats before you die. Why waste your heartbeat on someone bad or a negative situation or even the negative thoughts? Okay. Worrying about the past is in the past. Okay. That's going to make you depressed. Worrying about the future is going to give you anxiety. Prepare and learn from the past and prepare for your future. We're trying to live in the moment, which is really hard for us entrepreneurs. For me, I was always like, literally, if I'm working, I'm like, oh, why aren't I out with my friends? Everyone's having a good time, this, that, and the other thing. And I'd be out with a girl, even like during sex. I'm like, I got to be doing this. Why did I do that email? It's like, where are you? I'm like, it's so hard to stay focused. The only time I'm honestly very, very focused is my meditation time, and that's at the gym. Oh, yeah. And I used to run. I remember even running into Arnold Schwarzenegger at Gold's, and he mentioned something like meditation was when I work out. And I said, do you believe that? I was like, oh, I love it. Every day I get up, and sometimes twice a day I work out. It's like my time to redo everything. And I believe it. It's the only time. And I'm listening to music. I'm just doing my own thing. No one bothers me. It's my time away. I don't check the freaking phone. Like all of you are like obsessed with your phone. Okay? Let it go, man. That phone does nothing for you. It's like money. Don't let the money control you. You control the money. Okay? Don't let the phone control you. Use that to help you. Don't let the phone control you. Oh, someone just sent me a text. I better reply back. Are you like a cardiologist? Are you about to do heart surgery on someone? You don't need it. I have girlfriends or something. They're constantly checking your phone. I'm like, dude, I'm having a conversation with you. Can you focus? Oh, this and that. I'm like, really? Is that on TikTok you're looking at? Is that on this? All that stuff is designed to suck your energy, which is good for Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and all that, but it's not good for you. Right. Use it to learn. Don't use it to suck up all your time, which you get drained afterwards. And you're like, man, I'm tired. And you're not going to do work. Do your work and use that as for entertainment or learning. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, listen, we could go on. I loved it. And I'm going to try not to feed it because I think that we could go on and on and on and on and on about emotions and how they literally create a chemical reaction in your body that screws up your ability to perform well. Right. Yeah. So I think it is vital that you touched on that. And
just real quick, everything you do, I always tell people, is genetics and hormones. Okay. Yep. Being positive, they say, is 50% genetics. Okay. Look, my brother's a happy-go-lucky guy. All right. He's always laughing. He's older than me, 15 years. He's awesome. Great heart. He's always like giggling and he's like on YouTube laughing with my mom. Like, what the F, dude? What is so funny? And he's just that dude can sleep 9 hours. Yeah. He's just a happy-go-lucky guy. Yet my mom's like, you were always focused, this, that. I never told you what to do as a child. That's my genes, all right? I'm not this happy-go-lucky guy. I'm not like ignorance is bliss. That's not me. So everything is genetics. What can you do? What can you can't do? You got to know your strengths and weaknesses. Okay, so like maybe Chris and I aren't the best sleepers, so we need to optimize other things we do during the day and really focus on sleep. Or literally, I had my cousin who is a urologist, super smart guy. That guy can sleep in and out anytime. I was just talking to him once in the car. He's like, I'm like, what's going on, dude? He's like, I need to go to bed right now. I'm like, what? Like, how do you? He's like, I can't. I got to go right now. And I'm like, Jesus, what's going on with this guy? That's his ability to sleep anywhere. I don't have that. So I need to like really make sleep a priority. I need to make rest a priority. While someone else might be like, hey, bro, what's going on? They're easy breezy. And you're not going to be successful being easy breezy with anything.
Yeah.
For me, everything is urgent. So you have to see what works for you. If you're not the urgent person, you need to make goals, this and that. I'm naturally a goal guy, take care of things. So again, genes and hormones matter. That's why men are more driven than women. That's why as you get older, the testosterone drops. You're not as driven. By the way, testosterone increases dopamine, estrogen increases serotonin, blah, 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 all these different things. So you need to work with that. And by the way, that whole epigenetics means your diet, your exercise, all that affects your hormones. And again, at the end of the day, if you can't change your genetics, at least you can improve your hormones and your neurotransmitters with all the things you do, whether it's supplements or drugs or diet and exercise, always has to be the foundation. Work on that to improve it. Don't use, oh, my genetics suck. Like, you know, I've got a friend who's like, I'm big bone. Like, I didn't ask you to be shredded, but you can definitely lose 30 pounds, bro. Anyhow.
So the passion is amazing. Hey, you said something about glutamine before, so let's go back to that really quickly because I think it's there's a lot of different layers to what we're going to be talking about. A lot of it has to do with 30,000 foot view, but I want to also get very specific with take home value. Like I put glutamine into my water also. It's not been that long that I've been doing this, maybe a year or so. But I've been putting multiple, bunch of scoops into my gallon of water because I'll make it in a whole gallon and make sure that I get through that at least one of those during the course of the day, at least on a good day. But I was doing it because of the benefit to gut health. What are you doing it for? Are there other benefits of glutamine?
So I used to overtrain a lot, overtrain because the workouts, because genetically I'm burning all the time. My body is like a Lambo, burns through stuff. For me, I can't do these 2-hour workouts because I'm sluggish and my metabolism is slow. And I need to do I need to go. That's my thing. And I used to burn out all the time. So I remember back in the day, this was a long time ago, that people who would lose weight and have poor immune system and all this, AIDS people, they used to give them a lot of glutamine. I'm like, well, shit, it's good for AIDS people. It's good for me. So I used to add a little bit of glutamine and improve my gut health. My immune system shot up. And ironically, it just killed all my sugar cravings.
Oh,
so
wow.
I've been doing that. So I tell people, hey, you want to improve, you kill your sugar cravings right there. And it does improve gut health. It totally boosts my immune system. It's like the number one amino acid in your gut and all that when your immune system gets, drops. So it sucks it all in. The other thing, putting a little bit of lemon juice and all that, helps that. Now let's take probiotics. I never think, oh, probiotics, I heard of that. I was taking it a billion years ago. And only because I used to have white spots on my skin, and that's fungus. And I found out tinea versicolor and bacteria. So they would give me antibiotics and all that. It killed all the bacteria, then this and that. And then so I found out I can't have a lot of yeast. I can't have mushrooms, all that. That's my genes. And then at the same time, my chiropractor said, you take some probiotics. And back then I used to take Jarrow, and it had 1 million probiotics. I'm like, oh my God. Now it's like 60 trillion, right? Yeah. So I was taking that way back in the day. Now I take one in the morning, one at night, 2 different companies. You should mix and match them. And obviously they say taking, fermented food is even better because it's more natural. So if you can't take it, whether it's, sauerkraut, but it's got to be made correctly. A lot of the people, centurions, who live a long, long time, they have like yogurt. Now, I don't do well with dairy. So taking natural probiotics, pills are fine. Someone's like, hey, do you have a probiotic pill? I said, no, I don't. Because there's so many different strains of bacteria. I don't want to rip someone off and say this, that, and the other thing. Take it, it's good, but I'd much rather you had fermented food. right? I can't say, oh, take this for glutamine naturally, right? I can't say like I take a lot of fish oil. I take like 8 grams a day. I could tell you go have a lot of fish. Some people don't like fish. There's all this junk in the ocean. So maybe you get sick. Some stuff supplement. Some stuff better to get it from natural fruits if you can. And so take the glutamine, take some probiotics, take some prebiotics. Fiber is very good. Fiber naturally creates both pre and probiotics from your stomach because again, all that fermentation in the stomach. Eat some vegetables. For me, I don't do well with vegetables. So honestly, I take like psyllium husk. I know it's as stupid as it sounds. It's cheap and it works.
So yeah, but if we want to combine them all, right? Let's give some examples. You said yogurt or kefir. I get that. I don't do those. Sauerkraut made well. We always have really well made fermented sauerkraut. Kimchi
Yeah.
is another great one. They say pickles, but I'm not like I think you really go wrong with pickles because there's so many commercial ones that have like
Sure.
really so much crap in them. But what other things would you suggest as far as fermented foods that would really kick up that?
I think
so it's
those
prebiotics and probiotics.
Yeah, I mean, I think inulin is a prebiotic powder you can get. You know, ultimately, I can tell you what to do, but are you going to do it? Right? If I told someone like eat fish, or oh, I'm going to throw up, then you're not going to do it. So take one of these, you know, fermented foods, but it's got to be done right. I remember buying all the sauerkraut, and then I found it wasn't made properly. I'm like, so this stuff doesn't have anything,
right?
And I think it's Bubbly or Boobly or one of these companies. And I remember this guy saying, hey, you know, all the juice of it, that's where all the probiotics. I'm like, oh, really? So I was like drinking. I'm like, this tastes pretty good. And I literally, guys, swear to God, I was out on a date. I'm like, oh, something's not right with my belly. It's like, what's wrong? And I went home and I was like, where the hell this happened? I'm like, oh, shit, it was because I was drinking it right to it. And that's how powerful it is. So it was made right. It has to be in the refrigerator. Even the probiotic, I put it in the refrigerator.
Right.
So it's live. So take some fiber. So what do? I take the, you know, there you go. Make the big thing of water. I put some stevia in there. I put lemon juice in there. I put some glutamine. You can put, you know, salt, a little bit of potassium, magnesium throughout the day, whatever you want. I just put salt on my food. If you have high blood pressure, trust me, drink more water. Also the salt, I take, you know, Himalayan sea salt, whatever. I'm not sure if it makes that big of a difference, but you know, all the main salt comes from all the processed foods you eat. If you look at all that extra salt. So I do that. I drink it. In the morning, I take one probiotic, and at night I take another one. And at night I also take like maybe like 5 or 6 capsules of the fiber of the psyllium husk, because in the morning, you know, and I keep it simple. Mm-hmm. Remember, the simpler it is. When I was young, everything was complicated. Take this before, take that after, take this in the morning. And like the end, like 80-20 rule, right? Just keep it simple and basic so you can adhere to it long term. Yeah. Especially we're entrepreneurs, we got a million things going on. If you make it complicated, you're not going to stick to anything.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Let's go into, let's get into something that I believe is one of your favorite subjects, which is nutrients. You know, fun nutrients that either you have tested, or you use, or you specifically think nobody should use, but everybody does use, you know, for performance, like whether that is cognitive performance, you know, brain health, or physical performance, so that they burn fat, gain muscle, whatever the heck it is.
Right. So just understand, whatever goes up comes down.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to screw around, you know, I have people taking modafinil every day. I'm like, you know, you burn out your system. Okay. Caffeine, you burn out your system. Like, I'll take nicotine. I've been doing that for a long time, but I don't have an addictive personality. I can take grams of nicotine all day long in the form of candy, or, you know, the lozenges or whatever. I'm fine. I just get off. Some people, apparently they get, you know, super addicted to it, or I think most of the addiction comes in the cigarette. Nicotine is the reason I like nicotine is it's good for the brain. It reduces Alzheimer's and all that stuff. And I got on my dad's side of the family, but it's in and out of your system in about an hour or two. Well, versus,
would you mind if I interrupt you real quick?
Yeah.
I have a real good buddy who is very much into what is now called biohacking, right? I mean, you and I have been doing this since we were kids, and nobody ever called it biohacking. It was just like trying stuff out so that we could be better and do more of what we want to do. But he's constantly chewing on nicotine gum. And this dude, I mean, his brain fires like this in a good way. I have never, ever, like in my entire life, I had one puff of one cigarette and then threw it the heck away. There was a year in my life where I smoked cigars because I thought that was, fun and cool, and it was awesome. Yeah. And, but, I also smelled like somebody took a
horrible
shit the whole time.
Yeah.
Cigars have such a horrible smell. But outside of that, like nicotine's never entered my body. So what is the good and the bad and the ugly as far as nicotine goes? And how would you take it? Because you said you take it.
I just take the lozenges because I don't know what happens with the gum, the chewing, and by the way, when you chew, it creates stomach acid.
Right.
It tells your body that for a lot of people, you don't want all that extra, like non-associative stomach acid because your body's like creating it. It's like, hey, are we eating or not eating? So you don't want to trick the body that way. Sure. Also, the jaw, you don't want your jaw to be working that much. Okay. I remember my chiropractor was like, oh, it's so tense because I used to chew gum all the time. So I just take the lozenges. I remember I think it was Dr. Peter Attia, or maybe it was someone else. I totally respect these guys. Like, you have to be careful because, a cigarette has 1 gram of nicotine. I'm like, it does? I look, it's got 10 to 15 to 20 grams of nicotine. So when I take one of those nicotine things, it's only like 1 or 2 milligrams. Okay. So if I'm having 2 milligrams, 2 or maximum 3 times a day, that's still only quote unquote half of a cigarette or a quarter of a cigarette. But see how you feel. Start with just, you can get those 2 milligram lozenges. I would only take a half. By the way, as much as on my backgrounds in pharmacology and drugs, you have to understand drugs are super powerful. Always start with the lowest dose and see how your body reacts. The goal is to get the most out of the least amount. Why? Because later on your body will adapt. You're going to need to up the dose. Start with that, not at night, but like, for example, if you're doing an interview, you got this thing going on, do it and you'll be sharp, but just don't do it all the time just for the sake of doing it. Because you don't want to become emotionally addicted to something as a clutch, if that makes sense. Or crutch, I should say.
So the value that you get from it is a little bit more sharpness in your ability to then connect thoughts quicker.
Yeah. And also, for those of you, it is a good weight loss product. Not only does it improve dopamine and all this, it also lowers estrogen. In the old days, for an aromatase inhibitor, if you couldn't afford it, this is like 20 plus years ago, you would just take a lot of nicotine. So that's also one reason people smoke a lot are thinner, because it curbs your appetite, increases dopamine, and it lowers your estrogen level. So, a lot of people tend to have high estrogen, but yeah, I don't really notice it much. You have to understand, I don't notice much of anything because maybe my system is so fine-tuned, nothing's broke. It's like you take your Lambo fine, to the mechanic every month, you're not going to see that huge performance. You take it once a year, you drive, you're like, oh man, what happened?
Yeah.
So mine's already fine-tuned. I just take a little bit here and there. Before my workouts, for example, I'll take 50 milligrams of caffeine, 50. You take 5-hour energy, it's 300 milligrams. You take these pre-workout stuff, it's like 400 milligrams plus a ton of other uppers. I just take 50 milligrams around noon or 1, and I work out around like 1 or 2 because I got to do work during the day. I wish as much as I could work out early in the day, I just can't. And I'm like, oh my God, I only take it 3 or 4 times a week. I don't know how these guys are popping pills all day long or drinking coffee and they don't feel it because your body gets used to it.
Yeah.
The worst thing you can do is burn out your adrenals, your adrenergic receptors. You become insensitive. And once you burn that out, honestly, life isn't good anymore. You're not as happy anymore. I used to burn out my stuff and I wouldn't laugh as much. Your sex drive is down. Everything, like, God, what's going on? I used to then not work out, take a few days off, get all of a sudden, like, because your body becomes desensitized to anything. So don't take uppers all the time and maybe rotate them. Take a little bit of nicotine here and there, take a little bit of caffeine here and there, matcha tea or whatever, just a little bit of mixing it up. If you get too hyped up, take some L-theanine, a lot of things, but don't take the same thing all the time because you have to keep upping the dose. It's just not going to work. Like,
Right.
why do something if it's not going to work? Just, I'd rather you rotate them.
Yeah. So does L-theanine, L-theanine I know works with coffee. For a long time, this is years back, I was in the health club industry, I think, as you know, for over a decade. I sold that company in 2004. Shortly, I went online right before that, to give you an idea. But back in the health club industry, man, I would down coffee. Like, we had the big coffee makers back then in the clubs, and I always kept my salespeople like highly caffeinated. Like, we always had lots of caffeine in there. Theanine, I got introduced to theanine back then because it really took away jitters from coffee. Like, you would drink coffee but you would take theanine, so it would be more of a laser focus as opposed to, sitting there shaking.
Jitterness,
Does theanine work the same with nicotine?
No, because it's a different mechanism, So even, by the way, a lot of these supplement companies will add taurine in there and L-theanine and jack up the caffeine. And what happens is you get that, but you don't get the jitterness, you're focused, and you keep drinking or doing more the, uppers, the 5 hour, all that stuff. Before they added that, you would get jacked. You're like, man, I can't take any more of this stuff. They're like, how can we get this guy to consume more? Okay. So they reduce some of the jacked up feeling. And so that's how it was. And L-theanine is naturally in like green tea or stuff. If you want the truth, tea is quote unquote healthier than coffee, but it doesn't matter either way. Take that. But look, I've got an energy product, you already know, it's called Body Brain Energy, and that's designed as a nootropic. It's got all these things that I balance it out, because it's not just like adrenergic receptors, it's dopamine, it's improving lots of different factors, including mitochondria is a huge one. I've been taking CoQ10 for like 15-20 years, and on a side subject, I found out CoQ10, mitochondria, blah blah blah. I'm like, oh wait, it's good for muscles, done. So instead of taking 100, I took 400, 600 milligrams, and you feel awesome. You literally feel good. You're like, yeah, cool, man. Anything can be done. You don't get jittery. And I used to give it to my mom. And I remember my sleep wasn't good, but I'm like, I don't even need to sleep. I feel great, man. I guess my body is at a zenith right now. And I said, asked my mom, like, how are you feeling? She's like, pretty good, but my eyes hurt. I'm like, why? She's like, well, I'm not sleeping at night. And I think they're just really dry. I'm like, why aren't you sleeping at night? She's like, well, ever since I've been taking CoQ10. I'm like, that's a jacks up your system. So I started lowering the dose, and then I could sleep finally. So that's how powerful CoQ10 is, improving mitochondria. Just don't overdo it. By the way, here's another fact. I take maybe 30 milligrams or 50 milligrams at the most CoQ10. It was just enough to give me energy, but not keep me up at night. Now that I'm old, I have to take 100 or 150 milligrams to get the same feeling. That's the other part with getting old. Things don't work as well. So when you're young, take the least amount, okay? But all these little factors go into optimizing your health. It's, the less you can take stimulants, the better, only because you don't want adrenal burnout or overstimulation, because your body will just become less and less sensitized to everything. That means your workouts won't be as good. You won't be as happy because dopamine won't be released as much. So that's the other factor.
Yeah. So things that we could do to increase dopamine, right? And naturally, like I used to be really good friends with a woman who used to say, oh my God, don't do anything that screws with your dopamine, because it's like the most sensitive part of your system, and you screw with that and you'll be screwed up for the rest of your life. But there's a lot of things that naturally that enhance the health of different areas of your body, that then allow your body to not only produce the right amount of dopamine, but utilize the right amount of dopamine, right? Because, and we should talk about that, not just with dopamine, but with everything else. There's a huge difference. There's so many huge differences I have found, at least in my studies, when it comes to performance of your body's ability to create something and your body's ability to utilize that something, number one. Number two, when people are measuring things like you and I know, I mean, I get blood tests on a regular basis just because I'm a freak and I like to know what the heck is going on inside my body and what kind of, often when I'm working a lot, I want to see if that's throwing off my numbers, the markers inside my blood. And what I've learned through a lot of this is that it's not nearly as important to understand what's in your blood as it is what's being absorbed into your cells. So, when you get these numbers, a very general blood test will tell you, here's the amount of vitamin C you have in your blood, or here's the amount of whatever in your blood. But that's just what's passing through your freaking blood. It's not actually what is being used by your body. If your body can't absorb that nutrition into your cells, you're fucked in many ways, right? So,
and that blood test is just a snapshot of that moment in time.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's meaningless.
Yeah. Well, it's not, well, so you're right. It's meaningless in and of itself, but it's not meaningless when you look at a track record of blood tests.
Sure. Yeah.
That's what I've always been told. Like my executive health doc, he's like, listen, forget it. It was my testosterone was a little bit, it was natural. It was normal, but it was low normal. And he's like, well, let's just watch that. And I'm like, well, what do I need to do? Like, I was starting to freak out. He said that, and he said a couple of other very, very small things. And he goes, Chris, listen, you flew in to see me.
Oh yeah.
We went out last night and hung out, had a big ass fucking dinner. We stayed out laughing all night. We got up early this morning. You went to your blood early this morning. Like, yeah, your testosterone is probably down a little bit. Let's wait until the next one. We'll compare 2, then we'll compare 3, and every 6 months or so. And he's like, yeah. So if we look back on the first test, we're lucky we never took action on that because you're good. But most people don't understand that. They take one blood test and they're like, oh my God, things are great or things are horrible.
And even on the testosterone, how you feel. I know guys who are like, dude, look, my testosterone's super low. Should I get on TRT? Everyone's doing TRT, bro. I'm like, how do you feel? Yeah, pretty good. How's your sex drive? Oh, man, everything's great. I'm like, why bother?
And there's nothing to fix.
Exactly. So, and when you take it, how you take it, like my aunt, she's like, look, my blood, my A1C is up, this, that, and the other thing. I'm seriously low carb, this and that. I'm like, are you sleeping? She's like, no, I'm stressed out. Your cousin's getting a divorce. My husband, and I'm like, yeah, cortisol shoots up.
Yeah.
Your blood sugar shoots up. That's why. I mean, so it's not just like, oh, my diet sucks, I'm diabetic. There's all these different factors that influence it. But to go back to dopamine, natural things you can take is L-tyrosine. That helps your body produce more dopamine. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've been taking, most of you shouldn't even do this. Always speak to your doctor before you do anything, blah, blah, disclaimer. So I've been taking Depronyl, L-Deprol for a long time. And this I found out in the old days when I was biohacking. I probably took it, prematurely, but L-Deprol at a very, very low dose is used to prevent your body's degradation of dopamine as you get older, which it falls apart. Listen, the sucky part about getting old is, you want to go out to dinner again? Been there, done that, right? You want to go here? You're like, Even I got like a puppy, and I was dog sitting another puppy that was 1-year-old, mine's 2-year-old, and I was once dog sitting a 10-year-old. The 1-year-old puppy's like, I'm like, dude, stand still so I can put the leash on. You said we ain't going on a walk. And my dog used to be like that. She's still pretty cool. The 10-year-old is like, walking, dude. All right, I'll go outside, take a shit, and I'm back home. I'd rather just sleep in the corner. And you can't say that dog's dopamine is overdone because he took too much caffeine or life sucks or too much work problems or he's been on, too many Facebook stuff that suck. It's just getting old. So you want to prevent stuff from, as you said, falling apart. So you're not absorbing and you're not reacting. Even pro bodybuilders take the same drugs they used to when they're 20 versus 30 versus 40. They don't react anywhere the same. You're the same genes. Things don't get absorbed and don't react as well. You can take steroids when you're 20, no problem. You can do the same steroids when you're 40. Like, dude, I'm losing my hair. I'm getting zits. Your body's enzymatic reaction, sensitivity just changes. So again, it's how you absorb things. Don't burn stuff out.
Right.
That's all I can tell you. Okay.
And you
People
burn
are like
as you get older.
Yeah, it burns out. And same thing with people, again, not sleeping well. It burns you out. Just don't taking breaks throughout the day to get your dopamine back down
Mhm.
so it gets up again. Right. If you work out every day for 3 hours a day, I'm telling you, burn out and your system burns out. You're not a, I have guys, I remember when I was burning out myself, I would take caffeine. I'd be like, did I even take it? I think I feel something. And during my workout, I'm like, ugh. I'm like, what the hell, dude? Why am I yawning? I just took like 3 billion milligrams of caffeine. I stopped taking everything. I actually didn't work out for 3 days. All of a sudden, my sleep got better. I went to the gym. I took just a little bit of caffeine. I'm like, man, so that's what you want. You don't, things can get rejuvenated in the body if you give it time. Again, self healing, self cleaning. You just have to give it time. Okay. You can't keep eating food until you get rid of what you ate. So think of it that way. So
Yeah, I've got a buddy who went on a caffeine fast
yeah,
for 30 days. And he said when he got back, he drank a little bit of coffee. And as soon as he did, after 30 days of not having caffeine, not just coffee, but
yeah,
no caffeine, meaning no coffee, no tea, no chocolate, none of the
yeah, nothing. Yeah,
micro amounts of caffeine in it, right? Um, and he avoided stimulants. So it wasn't just caffeine, but he also wasn't taking, anything else they would normally be taking to juice himself up from a stimulant standpoint. And he goes, when I came back, it was like a little bit of coffee made me so mentally alert. And he goes, not that I wasn't really alert, because at the end of 30 days, your brain doesn't really need the caffeine. It's
no,
difficult in the beginning because you've got all these synapses that are now breaking inside your freaking brain, right? And but there's a physiological thing that happens when you stop drinking caffeine as well. But he goes, at the end of that 30 days, I was literally thinking better. And then that little shot of coffee, it was just so clarifying. It was crazy. He goes, and so now he just does little bits like you were talking about before, 3 or 4 times a week. He does little bits of coffee. And he's just so much better than he was
yeah,
when he was drinking a lot. And I think it goes back to what you were saying, which is he probably burned out a lot of, I mean, and technically, if you really speak to somebody who studies your body and your systems, they're going to tell you there's no such thing as burnout. You don't burn out your adrenals. You don't, but there is the overtaxing that you were talking about, which really makes it so that they're not performing the way they should be performing, and the imbalances that all causes. So anyway, here, I want to talk about this.
even on a side note, I twisted my ankle once, and the girl I was dating, she was actually a fitness model and all that, and she had a PhD in like kinesiology, whatever it was. And she's like, "Oh, you have to take anti-inflammatories." I'm like, "Oh, I know it hurts." She's like, "No, you have to take it or you'll die." I was like, "Okay, fine." So she's like telling me to take, clinical studies have shown 600 milligrams of ibuprofen. I'm like, "What? You want me to take that?" She's like, "Yeah, every 4 hours."
Oh my
So I'm
God.
like, "Yeah." So I took one every 4 hours. I'm like, oh, yeah, oh, much better. Of course, 2, 3 days later, I'm like, I need to up it more. Anyhow, by the end of the week, I was taking like 400, 3, 4 times a day. And I could tell I wasn't getting the same benefits. I stopped it after 10 days. Like, no, you got to do it for like a month. Okay. Anyhow, I stopped taking it, and like every little thing hurt because my body now became overly sensitized. I was like, someone's like, on the door. I'm like, not so loud, man. I was like, this can't be good. So use anything a little bit as needed. Obviously, if you just came out of surgery and you can't walk, I get it.
Yeah.
But never, even people who take Oxycontin, that's a pretty powerful. Some guys are taking 20 or 30 a day. They built up to it. If I started you on 20 or 30 a day, you would literally, no hands down, you would be dead. Your body would die, overdose. But your body builds up to that. And that 30 tablets a day works like it did at 1 tablet a day. You don't want that. Because, these drugs ultimately, remember, Coca-Cola was
Yeah.
cocaine in the cola. They needed a replacement. And they got a special form of caffeine that I used to use in one of my products. It's a special, long-acting, easy on the brain. They know, they're smart. It's a multi-trillion-dollar company. So They replaced one drug for another. Just because everyone does caffeine or alcohol, which is toxic to the system, doesn't mean that, oh, I could just take it all day long. So just keep that in mind. Be kind to your body. Don't overdo anything. Even in 1 or 2 nights of sleep, hey, you got a seminar, I get it. You take that, maybe take some modafinil, you're getting through and all that. Come back and give your day 2 or 3, your life, 2 or 3 days to just recoup. Okay.
But I agree, you did the right thing. You listened to somebody with a lot of credibility. I mean, she was a fitness model, so she knows a lot about medicine.
Well, the PhD, and she worked for the chiropractor, but I thought, well, she must know, because she was also a doctor. But at the end, I'm like,
Oh, I
no,
didn't know
you know
that.
what? Listen to
I
your
didn't
body.
hear that part.
Oh, yeah, no,
I blanked out when you said fitness
when
model.
she's fitness model. No,
So
she had a PhD in kinesiology, and she worked at a chiropractic office, But my chiropractor, in the old days, I would take curcumin.
yeah,
I would take, ice and do all that natural stuff. And by the way, your body will heal it, man.
absolutely.
So give it some time. Maybe you got to endure a little bit of pain. It's like getting off caffeine. By the way, if you aren't taking any kind of drugs, don't cold turkey anything. Okay. Please don't. Slowly wean off. Okay. Depending on what dose you're taking, and then give your body a break. You'll get a lot more benefit. Look, no difference than you're dating a girl. Okay. She's hot. Dude, I can't wait. Everything is awesome. You can't wait to see her. Sex is so awesome. You do that for 3 months. She's not hot anymore. She's not awesome in bed anymore because you got used to her. Sorry to say. Okay. Your dopamine is like, oh, it's her again. Give a little bit of break is good. Taking some time off, seeing each other, breaks here and there. You appreciate someone more. And your body appreciates that drug more because you didn't burn out. I remember Tom Platt saying, workout bodybuilder guy saying, you can't appreciate, a good workout if you don't have a bad workout. So give your days that you don't have to be up all the time. You don't have to be happy all the time. You don't have to be anything all the time. Maybe that's what weekends are for. That's what a vacation is, there to recuperate your body. You can take little mental vacations throughout the day, breaks by just, like you said, meditate, go outside, just look at birds or go walk in the forest or something. Don't have to be working and not appreciating that forest. Like sometimes I would be like doing stuff with my puppy and I wouldn't even be paying attention that she's like wanting to play with the leash, and staying a little bit more in the moment with your kids. Before I go on a side tangent, when my dad had a stroke, then like a week later my cat like just fell. I'm like, what the F, dude? Did she have a stroke too? Take her to the doctor. She has diabetes. I fix it, I do the blood, all that stuff. But I remember she would always come to the front door, go meow, 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 meow. And I'd be like, no, I got to work. I got to do this. I got to do that. When she was dying, I stopped doing that. I just pick her up and I give her a lot of love, this and that. And by the way, she's a cat. 30 seconds later, she's like, leave me alone. 4 years later, when she passed away, I didn't have regrets that like, hey, I wasn't there. I did my best. I was always there. I would play with her a little bit. I would make her a priority. It only took a minute. Sometimes your kid's like, hey, daddy, this and that. You just stop what you're doing because there's going to be a day your kid's not going to want to talk to you again. Yeah. So be in the focus. The most expensive thing you can have in life is regret. Regret emotionally for what you do and don't do, even your body physically. You only get one body. So treat it, be nice. You don't have to burn it all the time. Trust me, you'll make more money being nice to your body and balancing things out.
Yeah, that's profound. That was a nice way to end that one.